Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rob Folia, your real estate broker and real estate educator. And hey, it is the first week of July. Time is flying. 2026 has just flown by. And I hope you're having a great 2026. I want to jump into the real estate market, talk about maybe planning your second half of the year. If you're thinking about making a move either at the end of 2026 or into 2027, what that might look like. But the market looks like here as well in Middle Tennessee. Without further ado, let's jump right in. All right. So first off, what's been happening in the world of interest rates? Well, let's take a look. Interest rates, since we last looked, have basically remained steady. I mean, you can go back here and look. They've been right around 6.5% since end of May. So they've stabilized here around 6.5%. Now that's, up about a quarter of a percent from where they stabilized and actually had trended downward toward the end of last year. Now, that's not to say it's not the worst thing in the world. Yes, a higher interest rate will make things slightly less affordable, but a quarter of a percent is not gonna make or break somebody more than likely. The good thing is we're not seeing rates, jump into the sevens again. Hopefully they continue to trend, either stay the same or maybe trend downward. But locally, what's the story? What are we seeing? What is the market? What is the data showing us? Well, let's start with Davidson County here. Now, you can see right here that the average sales price is still going up. Despite the fact that interest rates have gone up a little bit over the last 6 months or so, the average sales price has gone up in Davidson County. I mean, the average is right around $800,000. That's up 6% over this time last year. The median has also gone up 4%, to 550,000. That's up, from $530,000 last year. Now, the interesting thing that I'm seeing and I want to point out is, and we've been talking about this all year, new listings are still down. When I say new listings, I'm not talking about new construction. I'm talking about like a brand new listing hitting the MLS. That number is still dropping every single month when we're comparing year over year. We have seen this be a negative trend, and for June, it's the exact same thing. 21% down year over year. Only 1,270 new listings hit the market in June of 26. That's about, down from about 1,600 in June of 25. But the interesting thing is homes are still going. So you can see right here, the amount of homes that went under contract in June of this year, almost 800 compared to 770 last year. That's up 4%. The amount of closings basically flat, 808 this year, 800 last year. That's telling me the market is still strong. We are still in a good spot. If you're a homeowner, if you're a home seller, it is still a good time to put your home on the market. You just have to make sure it's priced right. If you've got a $803,000 home, let's just say, like taking the average sales price right here, if you have an $803,000 property, you can't price it at 900,000. You can't price it at a million. You got to price it where it's going to sell. And obviously we could dive into that if you're curious about what that looks like for you. What about if you're a home buyer? I mean, I do think right now there is an opportunity in the market. You see, typically the market kind of, I don't want to say peaks, but it definitely, the amount of activity at least, it usually kind of peaks around middle to the end of June. I've always thought July 4th is kind of that cutoff to where after July 4th, the market kind of slows for at least a month or two, which makes sense because if you think about when school starts around here, if you're moving to the area or if you're moving in the area, you just want to get in a different neighborhood, especially for schools. Well, if that's the case, you need to be in your home, by sometime in July so you can register, get into school on time and all that. So that's why activity tends to kind of peak and I don't want to say stall, but tends to stall right around now for about a month or so. And it's not even stalled. Like there still will definitely be homes that sell in July and in August. It's just not the same amount of activity that we would have seen in June. And so what that means, if you're a home buyer, man, there's a ton of opportunity right now for you because a lot of home buyers are kind of out of the market. A lot of home buyers they pick their time to move in May or in June and they've closed on their home or they're going to close within the next week or two and they're going to be in their new property. Whereas, if you have more of a flexible timeline or maybe you're thinking, hey, I'd like to get into my home just while it's still nice out, before it gets cold this year, whatever the case might be. Well, this is your chance. This is your opportunity, and I can help you navigate the market. Sticking with Davidson County here, there are three stats that are going to impact home buyers the most, and these are three stats that most real estate agents gloss over. They skip over. They don't inform their buyers on it, and their buyers end up missing out on thousands, whether that be on closing costs or in getting the price down on a property. The first is what's the climate of the market? Right here, months of supply. Months of supply is just that basically measurement, I guess you could call it, of how much demand there is as opposed to supply. Because if you think about it, we just talked about inventory, right? Well, how much demand is there? We have no way of knowing for sure, right? There's no like international buyers database where we know how many buyers are actually out there searching for a home. So real estate economists have come up with months of supply to kind of quantify how many home buyers are out there as opposed to the amount of inventory. And it's even year over year. Now, if we look back at a timeline of monthly timeline right here, you could see it always tends to trend up from June into July into August, September, October, just really through the end of the year. And if we went back and even looked at a 3 year trend line, you'd see the same thing. This is calculated monthly, so it kind of looks like an EKG with all the ups and downs. But the reality is, it always goes up and then it comes back down in the springtime, goes back up, comes back down in the springtime, goes back up, comes back down in the springtime, etc. Right? And so if you're a home buyer, this is telling me that there's going to be less buyers, more inventory for you to choose from. That means you're going to be in a more leveraged position. I mentioned three statistics. So that's statistic one, months of supply. Statistic two is how long a home is sitting on the contract or days on the market. You can see right now, year over year, from June to June, it's pretty much even, right? 27 days in June of 26. 28 in June of 25. I'm going to call that even as it gets. Well, if you look, average days on the market, it always, it typically always trends down right in the springtime because in the springtime, that's when there are more buyers out there. That's when people are interested. You could see the trend from the last 3 years, same thing, right? It peaks, continues to climb the second half of the year. It peaks, boom, goes down, climbs, peaks, booms down, it goes down, etc. So what I would anticipate, and again, anything can change. No one knows for sure, but I would anticipate continuing to see this climb, and meaning as a home buyer, you're going to be in a better position. You're going to see sellers who get a little more antsy because their home's sitting for a little bit longer. You might be able to get a good deal on a property. The longer something sits, the better position you're going to be in as a home buyer. So the third stat, and this is the stat that most real estate agents miss. Honestly, most agents probably don't even know this statistic exists inside of our MLS. It is a pricing ratio. It's your average sales price to list price. Now, this matters for home sellers, of course, so they can know what to expect, but this should also matter for home buyers. Because when you're a home buyer, if everything's selling in minutes, like just take the market when it was at its peak, right, in 2022, the beginning of 22, when things were selling in 20 offers in 20 minutes, so to speak. Well, the average home was selling for 104% of its asking price back then. We're obviously not in that market right now. And if we go back over the last year and really take a look, you can see it's usually kind of settled between 98 and 97% of the asking price. Now, it always peaks when there's more buyer activity because you have more of an interest, you have more buyers who are interested, you have more of a chance of multiple offers on a home. So it always peaks. It always tends to go up to this 98 in the last little bit, 98%. But as you see here, there have been little valleys in July of last year, 97, mid 97s in July and August, all the way down to below 97% in October of last year, below 97 in December of last year. There are opportunities. That's just another trend line that I would expect to see. I would expect to see that drop this year from where we are right now. Not anything crazy, but into the 97s, maybe even into the 96s a little bit. When that happens for a home buyer, that's your opportunity to pounce. That does not mean that you can get a home for 80 cents on the dollar, but it means, you're going to be in a more advantageous position than you would have been in should you have bought in April or May. Well, guys, there you have it. That is kind of our state of the current real estate market here in Middle Tennessee. As you can see, there's opportunity for everybody. So if you're a home seller, you're thinking of moving right now, reach out to me. Let's take a look at everything. Let's get a plan in place. Let's make things happen on your schedule, but also in a way to take advantage of the market. And if you're a home buyer and you're thinking of buying your first home here in 2026, well, I'll tell you what, reach out to me because as we just explored, there's going to be a ton of opportunity this second half of the year. So give me a shout if I can help in any way. Put my contact information here at the bottom of the screen. So check this out. Hit me up if there's anything I can do to be of service. Look forward to connecting with y'all soon. Thank you so much.